Hello, 6th graders, and welcome back to Day 317, Angle Relationships. Again, you'll have your note sheet in front of you. Make sure you are writing down everything from the slide, making sure you have your definitions, and feel free to add any notes as you go as well. Push pause so that you make sure you have everything, or rewind if you need to go back. All right, here we go. Here's our objective for today. We are going to identify parallel, perpendicular, and skew lines, and take a look at angles that are formed by a transversal. Alright, so looking at perpendicular, parallel, and skew, we need to make sure we know what they are, right? When two lines are perpendicular, they intersect and create 90-degree angles. Okay, so when our two lines intersect, they cross each other, they create 90-degree angles. Parallel lines are lines that do not intersect. Kind of think of those as your railroad tracks. They will not touch, they won't intersect, they go the same distance apart from them as they continue on. And then we have what's called skew lines. Skew lines, they don't intersect, but yet they're not parallel as well. And they actually lie in different planes as you go. So they don't touch, they don't intersect, they are not parallel to each other, but they are in parallel lines. So it's kind of like lines that are across the room from each other. All right, so we have some symbols that we need to make sure we're aware of. The parallel symbol is two lines just like this. They look like railroad tracks there. When you see that, that means parallel. The perpendicular symbol is like an upside down T, capital T there. That means that the two lines are perpendicular to one another. Alright, so here we have a picture, and we want to determine whether the lines are parallel, perpendicular, or skew. Alright, so let's look at our first example here. We want line UV. So if we take a look at where UV is, it's the bottom one here from U to V that goes left to right. So we have that line. And we have line YV. So right here. You'll notice that they both share point V. They intersect at V, so we have one left and right, one up and down. You notice in this corner, we can make some 90-degree angles. So line UV and line YV are perpendicular. So if you look under here how we can write that, line UV, we can use our perpendicular sign, the upside down T, is perpendicular to line YV. All right, let's take a look at letter B here. We have line XU and we have line WZ. So line XU is the back corner here. It goes up and down vertical. And line WZ is this front line here. So if you notice, they're not parallel because one is going left to right and one is going up and down. But they also don't touch. XU is way back in this back corner here, and WZ is in the front. So they're not parallel, they're not going the same direction, and they do not touch one another, so we call these skew lines. Now there is no symbol for skew, so we just write that they are skew. Alright, and let's look at C. We have line XY and line WZ. So line XY is this top one back here. And line WZ is the top on the other side. So they don't intersect, so we know they're not perpendicular. But parallel means that they run with each other, right? Our railroad tracks. So the back one going left to right and the front one going left to right. Because they're going the same direction, we call those parallel lines. And here we have our symbol for parallel. Alright, here's a couple extra. You don't have to write these down, but if you want to take a look at line WX and line XU. Okay, they're perpendicular. Here's another one, line WX and line UV. These are skew. They don't touch each other, they don't intersect, but they're also not going the same direction. And one more here. Line WX and line ZY are parallel.
Okay, thanks Mrs. P on that, the lesson on perpendicular, parallel, and skew lines. Now we are going to look at 4 vocabulary words and their definitions, as well as drawing the picture that goes with them. The picture is always to the right of the vocabulary word, so please draw that picture underneath the vocabulary word in your notes section. Our first vocabulary word is adjacent angles. Adjacent angles have a common vertex and a common side, but no common interior points. Adjacent means next to. Okay, if you're sitting next to your person at your table, you are adjacent to them. So it's really angles that are next to each other. Angles 2 and 3 in this diagram, 2 and 3, are adjacent angles formed by 2 intersecting lines, and they are supplementary. Okay, so angle 2 and angle 3 are adjacent, and if we add up both of these angles here, we're going to get 180 degrees. If you remember back a couple lessons ago, 180 degrees, and they are supplementary. Next we have vertical angles. Vertical angles are the opposite angles formed by 2 intersecting lines. So take a look, we have 2 intersecting lines here, and our vertical angles are always opposite. So we have angle 1 and angle 3 are vertical angles because they're opposite of each other. Angle 2 and angle 4 are vertical angles because they are opposite of each other. When 2 lines intersect, 2 pairs of vertical angles are formed. Vertical angles have the same measure, so they are congruent. Notice the tick marks. We have 1 tick mark here on angle 3, 1 tick mark on angle 1. Those are congruent. Back in a few lessons ago when Mrs. Peterson talked about congruent angles. We have 2 tick marks at angle 2 and 2 tick marks at angle 4, so they are also congruent. Angles with the same number of tick marks, remember back, are congruent. The tick marks are placed in the arcs drawn inside the angles. Our last 2 vocabulary words are, one is transversal. Okay, this is a line that intersects 2 or more lines. So take a look, we have 2 lines here that happen to be parallel. And we have a line that goes across them or through them. That's called your transversal. It's marked with a letter T here for transversal. This line T is a transversal. When the lines that are intersected are parallel, 4 pairs of corresponding angles are formed. 4 pairs of corresponding angles. We have here and we have right here. So we have 4 pairs, okay, of corresponding angles. Corresponding angles are on the same side of the transversal, okay, same side of the transversal, and are above or below the parallel lines. For instance, angles 1 and angle 5 are corresponding angles. They are the same angle measure. Corresponding angles are congruent. 3 is an obtuse angle, 7 is an obtuse angle. They have the same measure. Same with 2 and 6 have the same measure. And because they are opposite each other right here, or what we call vertical angles, they are the same measure. And then finally 4 and 8 are acute angles having the same measure. That is what we're going to run through today, class. So your assignment is to put this away and keep it in safekeeping for tomorrow, because we're going to finish up this lesson, and for the rest of the class period you are going to work on your IXL. Have a good day.